Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and this is my long-awaited review on the Roland FP-E50 Digital Piano. Does my Yamaha DGX 670 finally have some competition? We'll have to see. Now, the first thing I need to mention is I didn't buy this piano, but my local Long & McQuaid's store did me a big favor and let me rent this piano, even though it's not part of their normal rental pool. So thanks a bunch to them. You can check them out at www.long-mcquaid.com. Link is in the description below. Now, there are a ton of things to talk about and go over with the FP-E50, so fair warning, this is a long review. But I have included some links below in the description to different sections of the video, so if you want to just jump to the parts that you're interested in, or if you want to watch a couple of parts and then come back later and watch other ones, then you can do that. So grab your favorite beverage and maybe a snack, and let's hear about the Roland FP-E50. So where does the FP-E50 fit into the well-known Roland FP line of digital pianos? Actually, it's kind of out on its own because while it shares a lot of the most important features of the FP line, it also has some very unique features that the rest of the FP line doesn't have. Given its feature set and price point, I'm expecting that the FP-E50 has already started to and will continue to take away a lot of sales from the FP30X and even the FP60X. Personally, I'm not sure why anyone would buy an FP30X anymore, and we'll see why on this review. So just to quickly go over the Roland FP line. It starts with the FP10 at only around $600 US, which is a pretty bare bones piano as far as connectivity, number of sounds, and user interface go. But the FP10 does offer some great quality basic sounds from Roland's supernatural sound engine, and also offers Roland's fully weighted and graded PHA4 triple sensor hammer action with escapement. So for $600 US, that's probably the most realistic acoustic piano action money can buy, along with some pretty high-end piano sounds. Then the FP30X at around $750 US has the same PHA4 action and adds some much-needed connectivity and some more sounds, but only a slightly better user interface. To be honest, I've always been pretty critical of the FP30X's user interface, especially for the price, and my opinion hasn't changed. Then the next in line is the Roland FP60X at about $1,000 US, which also shares the PHA4 action, but it adds even more sounds, a mic input, and a much improved user interface over the FP30X. Then the FP90X is the top of the line, and it's double the price of the FP60X at about $2,000 US. The FP90X is really in a totally different league than these other pianos, so I'm not even going to talk about it in this review. So where does the FP-E50 land? Price-wise, it's right in between the FP30X and the FP60X at about $900 US. So why do I think this piano is going to cannibalize the sales of the FP30X and the FP60X? Well, it has the same PHA4 action and supernatural piano sounds, but for only $100 or $150 US more than the FP30X, it has a feature set that quite frankly blows the FP30X away, and it even tops the FP60X in my opinion, in pretty much every feature set except for the speakers. So to quickly sum up the feature set on the Roland FP-E50, you get Roland's PHA4 triple sensor, fully weighted and graded hammer action with escapement, 256 notes of polyphony, over 1,000 sounds coming not only from the supernatural sound engine found on the other FP pianos, but also from Roland's expandable ZenCore sound engine. If you're into tweaking your piano sounds, there's a piano designer functionality built right into the piano. You've got some really cool arranger and accompaniment features that you do find on other arranger keyboards, but then you get a couple of unique and really cool features, an interactive mode and a built-in chord sequencer, which I quite frankly find amazing. You get pretty much every type of connectivity you could need, including left and right line outs, Bluetooth in for streaming, a mic input with effects and even harmonies, and an audio interface built right into the USB to host port, and that's huge. You get 256 scenes, which are basically registrations to save and quickly recall custom settings. And you get a great user interface with lots of panel buttons and sliders and a large menu screen. Okay, so let's dive into the details. Okay, first thing to mention is update the firmware. I rarely talk about this kind of stuff, especially at the start of a review, but there are some significant bug fixes in the firmware on the FP-E50. So the first thing you should do is press Menu, then Information, and check the current version your piano shipped with. When this piano came with version 1.01 when I rented it. Then compare it to the most current update available on Roland's website. If you search online for Roland FP-E50 firmware update, you're going to find the right site. At the time of this video, the current version was 1.1.1, and it had some fixes for things that I actually ran into while I was preparing this review. So if you need to run the update, download the zip file from this site and then copy the bin file to the root folder of a USB flash drive. Then with the power off on the piano, connect the flash drive and power it on while holding down the mic FX button. Then you will see messages on the screen as the update gets underway. Once you see update on the screen, you can let go of the button. It's not fast. It takes about 5 minutes. Once it says update finished, then turn the piano off and on again, and then you can check the version again in the information menu to confirm that it worked. Okay, key action. So if you're looking for a digital piano action that comes as close as possible to an acoustic piano, then any piano from Roland that has their PHA4 action is going to be a good choice. All the pianos in the FP line other than the FP90X have the PHA4 action, including the FP-E50. This is a triple sensor action with escapement. There's a matte faux ivory finish on the keys, and there are 100 levels of touch sensitivity and fixed. Now, I'm not sure if the total range of touch response is much different on the FP-E50 than what you get on the FP30X, which has a more typical 5 levels of touch sensitivity. I'm assuming this 100 levels is just offering a much more granular set of options for you to really hone in on the perfect touch response for your personal playing style. So if you're accustomed to playing acoustic pianos, then this action is going to feel more realistic than a dual sensor action like Yamaha's GHS action or Casio's smart scaled hammer action. That being said though, action is a very personal thing. Some people prefer lighter actions and some people prefer heavier actions. Neither one is right or wrong. It just comes down to personal preference. While I do like some things about Roland's PHA4 action, my personal preference is Yamaha's GHS action. I just enjoy playing on it more. I find the Roland action to be a little bit heavier on the way down than Yamaha's GHS, but I also find that the keys seem to take a little bit longer to return back up than the Yamaha does. So if I'm playing something like slow blues, then it's fine, but if I try to play faster 50s rock on the PHA4 action, I can find the combination of the keys being a little bit heavier and taking a bit longer to return back up makes it a bit more challenging and actually a bit tiring to play. But all that being said, I rarely play on acoustic pianos, so to me, having an action that mimics an acoustic piano action as close as possible doesn't really matter. As far as whether you'll like any action or not, the only way to really know is to go into a store and play a bunch of different actions and test them out for yourself. Okay, so the user interface and just some general functions. I will go over the whole thing left to right like I usually do, but the first thing I want to show is actually how you interact with the menu, because it's not super obvious if you're not used to it. If you look at the screen, you can see there's a little tiny arrow there. That's actually pointing right now at the current voice, so Supernatural 001, Concert Piano. So whatever the arrow happens to be pointing at, that's going to be what you can modify by using these buttons over here. So for example, I can hit increase to go to different selections there, decrease to go back down. Or if I want to see a more detailed menu, I can press enter and that'll open up a sub-menu of those options. And then I can choose one in here and either press exit or enter to get out of there. Then if you want to move that arrow around to modify other stuff, let's say I want to go down to the style, then I can use the arrow buttons to move down to the style. And then I can do the same thing, increase and decrease, or I could press enter to open up the sub-menu, etc. Okay, so back to the UI itself. On the left side, you've got 2 wheels, and there's a handy wheel mode button right beside these. And it's not obvious without reading the manual, but this button actually does 2 things. There's 2 modes the wheels can operate in. Default mode, which is the usual pitch bend and modulation, and then there's an assignable mode where you can choose between some pretty cool assignable options, like controlling layer volume, rotary speed for organs, mic effects, and all sorts of on-the-fly manipulation of the accompaniment, such as relative part volumes or even how busy the accompaniment is. So to configure what the assignable options are that you want, you actually hold down this button until the menu pops up. Then you'll see that we're in the default mode here of pitch bend and modulation. So for example, if I just play a note here, you can see wheel 1 is doing the pitch bend. Now, if I want to switch to an assignable mode, then I press increase, and then now I'm in the assignable mode. So the default for this, there's all sorts of different choices you can make here, but if you look under wheel 1 is now set to control the activity level of the accompaniment. And we'll be talking quite a bit more about what that is in detail later on in the review, but if I start up the accompaniment and then just start moving the wheel up and down, if I move it up to control the activity level, you can hear some other instruments come in, and then if I move it back down again, they go away. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of the flashing lights over here on the wheels, but I did find a place in the menu, though, where you can turn that off if you want to. I actually find it pretty distracting. So stop the accompaniment here. And then you can go down through and the different choices within the customized assignable wheel settings, and then choose what you want it to control, for example, rotary speed, that type of thing. So tons of options in there to play around with what the wheels are doing. So if I just hit exit and go back out to the main menu, then you can see this button is lit up now. That's because I'm now in assignable mode. So for example, if I hit a note and I move that wheel number 1, it's not pitch bending, and that's because I'm in the assignable mode. So it's going to do whatever I've chosen in that menu. Now, if I press it again to turn it so the light goes off, now it'll be back to the default pitch bend. So that's pretty cool. So in the next section is a group of volume sliders. This is awesome, and it's something that, in my opinion, should be mandatory on every piano in existence. Just simple, easy ways to quickly and easily adjust all your common relative volumes on the fly without having to deep dive into a menu somewhere. This is actually a feature you're going to see on stage pianos like my Yamaha CK88. There's a master volume, and then there's a keyboard volume for controlling the relative volume of whatever you're playing on the keyboard. There's a volume slider for the accompaniment. For example, if I start that up, let's say I decide it's not loud enough, I can turn it up, or I can turn it way down, etc. Then there's a slider for the song. So that's going to be used for controlling the volume if you're playing back a song from the piano's onboard memory or from a USB flash drive. Then there's also a slider for the mic input, and that's super, super handy. So for example, if I'm not singing on a song, or if I am singing on a song but I want to turn it down in between songs or something, then I can just down and then move it back up again. Super, super handy. One thing missing here, though, is a slider for the layered volume would have been really, really nice. Like, so if I'm layering 2 voices, to be able to control the relative volume between the 2, that would have been super handy. But you can't have everything. And there actually is an option, speaking of the assignable wheels, where you can control the layer volume using one of the wheels. So you can still actually do that. Then you have a bank of really nice soft touch backlit buttons, which is another handy stage keyboard feature, where you can navigate between your main voice categories: piano, electric piano, strings, organ, etc. And when you do that, it's going to move between those subcategories, as you can see on the screen here. So you can find the voices you want a lot more quickly that way. Also want to just mention, just for now, take note of the fact that there are these numbers underneath these buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You'll see why later in the review, but basically these are kind of ways to control other menu choices quickly, but we'll see that later on. Now also notice that there's a one-touch piano button here above the other buttons. So for example, if I go and I'm on a strings voice, but I want to just quickly return to the main default piano voice, then I can just hit that, and I'll be back at Supernatural 001 concert piano again. And next to that, you've got an ambience button, and this is actually the ambience on the entire keyboard. And ambience is just Roland's word for reverb. Reason I have that off right now, so it's not going to be applied to what I'm playing, but if I turn it on, it's also going to get applied to my voice. And I don't think you want to listen to that through this whole review. So let's just leave that off for now. Then you've got the split and dual button. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of combining all of this into one spot, but if you press it once, then you're going to be in split mode. I'm not sure why they chose a synth bass as the default second voice as opposed to like an acoustic bass or an electric bass or whatever. But you can change that, of course. And to set the split point, it is actually super easy and intuitive. You hold the split button and then you just press a key and that will change the split point. So if I hold that and I press that B down there, then you can see it's changed the split point to B2. So now when I exit out of that menu, that's the synth bass. And then you can see that it reapplied the split point to wherever I specified. So that's super easy to do. Then to enter dual mode or layer mode, so layering 2 voices together, you press this again. And then now you've got a layered voice. So you can hear it's defaulting to strings, which is the usual default for that. And you can, of course, change whatever the split voice is by just moving your arrow up to the split voice and then basically making your voice selections like you normally would. I'm just going to turn the split mode off. Then we have a transpose button. I really like the way that Roland did this. You can set a transpose setting by holding this button and then pressing any note, and it will save a transpose setting relative to middle C. So for example, if I hold this down and then press this D, it's going to move the keyboard up 2. So now, instead of C, I'm actually getting a D there if I turn transpose off. There's your C. And there's your D. So that's actually kind of cool because it's going to remember that setting. So if it's a setting you want to be able to quickly go to from a non-transposed setting, then all you have to do is hit the button once you've set it up, and then you can go back and forth quickly. Then we have a favorites button. I didn't use this a ton, but basically this is where you can save some of your favorite voices so that you can get at them quickly. So this isn't to be confused with the scenes or registrations. The favorites just store a single voice so you can get at it quickly, but when you use the registrations or the scenes, then that's how you can actually store all of the different settings on your keyboard for quick and easy recall. So the next set of buttons, the first one is scene, and once again, that's for setting up the scenes or registrations. I'm going to go over that in detail later in the review, so I'm not going to talk too much about that now. Then the other buttons in here are all for dealing with the accompaniment and the interactive mode and the chord sequencer. All of those things I'm going to be going over later, so just for now, that's where those buttons are. Then we have the screen with all the different menus on it, and then to the right of it, we've got the buttons for navigating through the screen that I already went over. Then on the right, we've got the menu button. Now, if you hold down the menu button, it's actually going to enter Bluetooth pairing mode to try and pair with a device. But if you just press the menu button, then it opens up a menu and you've got some different options in here. So the first one is Bluetooth. You can actually go into that and set some options for Bluetooth, or you can do Bluetooth pairing from here if you want. Then the input volume. This is pretty cool. You can adjust the input volume levels of 3 different audio inputs. The Bluetooth input, if you're streaming wirelessly in from a device like an iPad, like you're playing along with a backing track. The line input volume, that's going to be the 1/8 inch auxiliary input. So if you're streaming that way with a wired connection instead. Then there's the USB audio input volume. So that's if you are connected to a device using the built-in audio interface that's built into the USB to host port. Because when you do that, audio actually goes in both directions, from your piano to the device and from your device back to the piano again. So that's this input volume. This is actually the only one you're probably ever likely going to need to adjust, because if you're using the Bluetooth or the line input volumes, you can just adjust the volume on your device. So you can turn your iPad up or down to adjust the volume of the music or whatever it is you're streaming in. But if you're using the USB audio input volume, you actually can't adjust the volume on your device. If you try to, nothing's going to happen. So if you need to adjust that input volume, then this is where you need to go. The next item is Roland's Piano Designer. This is something that is built into the piano, so if you're into tweaking your piano sounds, that's something that you're going to be interested in. You can raise and lower the lid, you can adjust string and damper resonance, all sorts of other different things. This is something on the Roland FP-30X. You can do this stuff, but you need to do it on an app instead that's not built into the piano. Then we have menus for scene editing and the chord sequencer. Once again, I'm going to go over those things later on in the review, so I'm just going to skip that for now. Then in the system menu, you've got a bunch of sub-menus. There's general. You can adjust things like touch sensitivity, master tuning, what scene you want loaded when you turn the piano on. You can go to the sound sub-menu, and you can adjust the hammer response. A larger number here is supposed to introduce a delay between when you press the key and you hear a sound. I tried this at both extremes and I couldn't hear a difference. But maybe a more discerning user would be able to. Then there's some speaker options. We got speaker switch, which will just turn the speakers on or off. So right now they're set to be on. We've got speaker auto mute. Basically, if you have this turned on, then when you connect headphones, it's going to automatically mute the speakers. If you turn this off and speaker switch is on, then when you put headphones in, the speakers are still going to sound. And then speaker EQ, there's options in here for stand or desk. So basically, it's just going to adjust the EQ of the speakers depending on if you've got it on a stand like I do right now where there's nothing blocking it underneath, then you'd set it to stand. Or if you're putting it on a desk where you've got like it's just sitting on a flat shelf, then this will change the EQ for you. So I press exit here, and then we've got an equalizer to set some different EQ options if you want to customize that. Then we've got a metronome setting in here, and I'm not sure why this is here because this is the same thing that I'm about to show you that you access from the metronome button, but it is there if you want to use it there instead. Then we go down to the song utility. This is going to be to work with your audio recordings either on the internal memory or on a connected USB flash drive. You can rename, delete, or copy songs within this menu, and I am going to be going over that, so I'm going to skip that for now. Then utility, this is where you can run a factory reset. You can also import and export some things and like scenes and setups for your piano, that type of thing. So then to the right of the menu button, we've got the metronome button. So you can press that to start and stop the metronome, or long press the button to come into that same screen we just saw to configure the beat, the downbeat, the pattern, time signature, all of that kind of stuff. Then there's a tempo button where you can press it to adjust the tempo using the arrow buttons. So I can go in here and move the tempo up and down. And you can also long press it, and when you do that, then you can tap the enter button to tap the tempo. And then it'll adjust on the screen there. Then there is a section of buttons for working with songs: play, stop, fast forward, rewind, record, etc. And I'm going to be going over that when I talk about songs later in the review. There's also a center cancel button to try and cancel out vocals, which in my experience rarely works, but it might work on some professionally produced songs if you're lucky. And then there's a mic FX button where you can configure your mic effects. And as with many of the other buttons, you can press it to toggle the effects on or off. So if I put the effects on, you can see there's some effects now. Turn it back off again. And if you, as with many of the other buttons, to get this to the submenu, you long press it. And then this is how you can go in here and edit your mic effects. I am going to be doing a demo on the mic effects, so that's all I'm going to talk about at this stage. And then to the right of that, you've just got the power button. So I have to say that this is a great user interface. Even if I had no interest in any of the tons of features that the FP-E50 offers over the FP30X, I would still gladly pay an extra $100, $150 just to have a decent user interface on the FP-E50. Okay, sounds. So the Roland FP-E50 has a very impressive set of over 1,000 built-in sounds, but more interesting than the quantity of sounds is the fact that you're getting two sound engines. You get Roland's Supernatural piano engine, which is found on the other pianos in the FP line. So you're getting some great quality piano sounds, but you also get Roland's expandable Zencore sound engine. This combination far surpasses not only the FP30X's sounds, but in my opinion, the FP60X's as well. So what is Zencore? Well, I'm definitely not a specialist on this sound engine, but it's a cross-platform synthesizer engine that you'll find in a number of other Roland products, including the Roland Phantom, the RD88 stage piano, as well as the Jupiter and Juno series. And one of the biggest benefits of the Zencore engine is that it's expandable. You can import sounds from Roland's cloud, and there are also Roland apps and hardware that allow you to create your own sounds from scratch, which can also be imported into Zencore keyboards. So to sum up the over 1,000 sounds that are built in, you get 38 pianos, 34 electric pianos, 36 strings, 184 organ and pad tones, 726 synth and other sounds, which includes 64 drum kits. And for those who like to fine-tune their piano sounds, Roland's Piano Designer is built right into the piano. So for the Supernatural sound engine voices, you can do things like raise the lid of an acoustic piano, adjust different resonances, that kind of thing. With the Roland FP30X, you needed an iPad app to be able to do the same thing. So I already went over how you can navigate through sounds in the user interface part of this review, so let's just go ahead and hear a handful of the sounds. Since I'm more of a piano, electric piano, and organ guy, those are going to be the voices I'm going to focus on. I'm definitely not a synth player, so I won't be demoing any of those. One thing I will quickly demonstrate, though, is how much better the acoustic piano sounds are on the Roland's Supernatural sound engine as opposed to the piano sounds that don't come from that engine. That makes it super clear how awesome the Supernatural engine really is. And that's fine. That's exactly what makes the FP-E50 such a cool product, is you're not only getting the best of Roland's piano sounds with the Supernatural engine, you're also getting an expandable synth engine that excels at non-piano sounds. So let's check it out. Okay, so for connectivity, the FP-E50 kind of knocks it out of the park. It has pretty much everything you could possibly ask for. It's got left and right line outputs for proper line level connections to external audio equipment like amps, PAs, mixers, that kind of thing. It has 2 headphone ports on the front, and something cool that Roland has always done is they include both standard headphone jacks, a 1/4 inch and a 1/8 inch, so you don't have to worry about having an adapter handy. There's a generic 1/4 inch sustain pedal port and a triple pedal port for a Roland triple pedal unit. Now, included pedals on most digital pianos are usually the cheap little plastic switches. My Yamaha CK88 piano didn't even include one of those. But this little pedal that comes with the FP-E50 is kind of the cheesiest included pedal I've ever seen. I'm not sure why Roland even bothered including it. You're definitely going to want to be getting at least a generic sustain pedal with a polarity switch, or even better, the Roland DP10 pedal, which supports half pedaling. There is a 1/8 inch audio in for streaming in audio from a device like an iPad. There's the usual USB to host port for transmitting MIDI to a connected device, but the cool thing here is that Roland is finally catching up to Yamaha and is starting to include audio interfaces built into their USB ports, and that's a huge feature. This not only allows you to send high-quality direct audio, including any audio being streamed into the piano and including the mic audio, etc., direct to a recording app on a device, either a DAW app or even the camera app on your phone to easily make high-quality piano videos. But the other thing this does is if you aren't happy with the 1,000 plus sounds built into the FP-E50 and you want to trigger MIDI sounds on a sound bank app on a device using the FP-E50's keyboard, the audio from that app will come straight back through that same connection to the piano speakers, headphone outs, and line outs without any lag. That really is an amazing feature. There's a USB flash drive that allows you to move various files, including song files, on and off the piano, and also allows you to do firmware updates. Now for Bluetooth, both the manual and Roland's website say that the FP-E50 supports Bluetooth audio for streaming audio in from a device, as well as Bluetooth MIDI to send MIDI data wirelessly to a device. The Bluetooth audio works great. I've been using it the entire time I've had the FP-E50. But a Bluetooth MIDI connection does not show up on my iPad or iPhone, and I have heard a number of other reviewers say the same thing. So I think at this stage, the FP-E50 actually does not have Bluetooth MIDI. Maybe this will show up in a future firmware update. I'm not too concerned about that anyways, because I don't use MIDI very often as it is, and when I've tried Bluetooth MIDI, it's always too laggy to be of any use. If I am going to use MIDI, I always use a cable instead. And last but by no means least is there's a mic input with gain and a bunch of effects. And I'm super impressed with the mic connectivity on the FP-E50, especially the gain. It is super loud compared to the mic inputs that I've been using on my Yamaha PSR EW425 keyboard and even my Yamaha CK88 stage piano. Both the Yamaha's mic inputs work great, but they don't have anywhere near the volume level at their disposal that the Roland one has. So well done, Roland. Keep in mind, though, that there's no phantom power, so you can't use a condenser mic with the FP-E50. It has to be a dynamic mic. We will get a mic demo when I go over the mic FX section later in this review, but you've actually been getting a mic demo this whole time. This video is being recorded using the mic input on the FP-E50, which is then sending all of its audio to my iPhone, which is recording the video. Okay, for rhythms and accompaniment, there are 177 styles, and the usual arranger features found on arranger keyboards, sync start, intros, endings, and 2 variations for each style. You can also turn accompaniment on or off if you just want to play along with the drum beats as well. So I can just go to the drums if I want to, or turn the accompaniment back on. So as I mentioned earlier, to choose a style, you use the arrows to go down to either the style within the category and navigate within that category. You can see I'm on pop right now. Or I can go up to the category and switch from pop to ballad and then move in big kind of chunks instead to kind of speed up the navigation. And once again, I can press enter and that'll pop up everything within that current style category for me. So to customize how chord detection works and all of that kind of stuff, it's kind of surprisingly buried in a menu that you need to deep dive into. So you go to Menu, and then you go to Scene Edit, press Enter, then you go to Arranger Setting, and press Enter. Now you've got access to customize the arranger features. So for chord detection, the FP-E50 is kind of a unique keyboard, and in a good way if you're a piano player like me as opposed to a hardcore arranger keyboard player. And that is because unlike any arranger keyboard I know of, with the exception of the easy mode, No matter what chord detection mode you choose, you always hear what your left hand is playing. On any other arranger I know of, that typically only happens in some type of a full keyboard detection mode. With all other modes on most other keyboards, you're going to be using your left hand to trigger chords without actually hearing the notes in your left hand. So on the FP-E50, you've got the following options. If I go down to Chord Detect. So the first mode is Standard. Now Standard is only going to detect notes that are played below the split point. So in your left hand, if I play a full chord in my right hand, nothing's going to be detected. But if I play full chords in my left hand, then it will be detected. But notice though that you can hear my left hand playing notes. And that's what's unique about the FP-E50. Now, Intelligent is the next choice. This is the same as Standard, except when you play less than a full chord in your left hand, it's going to guess it as a chord. So for example, if I start this up again, if I play just a C, it's giving me a C major. If I play a G, it's actually going to switch, and I'm just using a single finger here. Okay, so the next mode is the easy mode, and this is only available if you're in split mode. I'm not in split mode right now, and if I try to choose easy, you're going to see it's not in the list. So I'm just going to go back to Intelligent here, then I'll turn on splits. Now you can see easy is an available choice. And this is one of the modes that I really dislike on any arranger keyboard. And that's because this is a mode where you're using kind of wizardy shortcuts to trigger types of chords, where the keys that you're pressing actually have nothing to do with the actual notes in the chord that you're trying to trigger. To me, this is just training you in some bad habits. It's much better to actually learn how to properly finger chords, but every single piano seems to have one of these modes. So the way this works, and I'm actually going to go to the main menu here, because the current chord that's being detected is displayed right in the middle of the menu. That way you can see that. So the way this works is whatever the rightmost note is that you play in the below the split point in the detection area is going to be considered the root note of the chord, and then you can play different types of chords by doing some different things I'm about to show you with other notes that are to the left of that root note. So for example, if I press start, I'm on a C major now. If I press just D, I'll get D major, so that's fine so far. So I'm back on C major again. Let's say I want to play a C minor. Instead of actually fingering a C minor chord, I play the C and whatever, any note, black note, that is to the left of the C is going to give me a C minor chord. So if you watch on the screen here, so now I've got a C minor, but watch when I do this. I can get it with that, or that, or that, or that, which is just, to me, really goofy. But then if you want to get a seventh chord, you would press the any white key to the left of the root note. That's going to be C7. That's C7, that's C7, that's C7. I find that super confusing, to be honest. So let's say, just going back to that C minor, for example, if I go back to that C minor again, if I was to think, well, I'm just going to play the first two notes of a C minor, which are C and D sharp, I've got E flat 7. And why is that? Well, that's because I played the rightmost note is considered the root, that's E flat, and then I played any white key to the left of that, so I got a 7th chord. And you also notice that you're not hearing what my left hand is playing in this mode. Okay, so back, I'm going to get out of split mode here and go back to the menu. One nice thing about the menu, though, is even though there was some menu deep diving there, you can see how it actually remembered where I had last been. It's on scene edit already, so I just have to press enter, and it's on arranger setting already, so I just have to press enter. So that's a nice little touch that Roland did there. Good job, Roland. Okay, so now I'm going to go up to pianist mode. Pianist mode, chords are detected from the entire range of the keyboard, but only if you play at least 3 keys. So I'm going to go back out to the main menu here, and I'll start that up again. So I'm on C, and there it's going to be anywhere on the keyboard, but I have to play 3 keys. So for example, if I play like a G and what would be the beginnings of a G minor, nothing changes. But if I play the 3rd note in that chord, anywhere on the keyboard, so that would be a D, I'm going to play it way up here. You can see how it changed to a G minor. So this might be a mode that might work with you for how you happen to be playing. Then the other one, if I go back to menu, and then enter, you see it gets you back there really quick. There's also Pianist 2. This is an interesting option. It works the same as Pianist, but it's also going to include any notes that are still sustaining in determining what the next chord is that's being played. So that can be helpful for if you're like a jazz type or something. Hold down the sustain pedal, press a C. It's kind of a unique mode, but anyways, if I was going to be using one of the modes here for arranger playing, it would probably vary maybe from song to song, but I would probably either use Intelligent or Pianist 2 most of the time. Okay, then interactive mode. This is super cool. If you turn on interactive mode, then the accompaniment is going to increase or decrease in intensity, and it is really subtle, but it definitely does, relative to how hard you are playing in your right hand. And depending on how you play in your left hand, the accompaniment is going to adjust how busy you are playing. There's 3 levels: simple, normal, and extravagant. So I'll try to demonstrate this, but keep in mind it is pretty subtle. But it is there. So I'm going to hit start, and I'm going to try and play really subtle and quiet here. Now I'll try to pick up both the intensity and the busyness a bit. You can see how it just went down to the bass there. You hear that it picked up, and you could even hear a cymbal crash in there. So it's subtle, but it's really, really cool. It's kind of like you're playing with a band. Okay, so now onto the chord sequencer. And this is one of the most unique features of the FP-E50, and it's one that I was super excited to check out ever since I first heard about this, because it's right up my alley. So I am big into playing along with backing tracks for songs. I've bought pre-made backing tracks off of some awesome websites like karaokeversion.com, and I've also used programs like iReal Pro or Band in a Box to make my own backing tracks. So just in case you're not familiar with programs like Band in a Box, it allows you to input a chord chart for an entire song, and then choose various accompaniment instruments and styles that are going to play that chord chart for you. You can go into as much detail as you like customizing those tracks by adding in fills, breaks, etc. to come as close to the actual song as you want to. Well, the chord sequencer on the FP-E50 basically amounts to having an app like Band in a Box built into the keyboard. You can input a full chord chart and do a bunch of customization to it, and then choose a style on the FP-E50 and play that chord chart with that style. And you can also still take advantage of the built-in accompaniment functionality like interactive mode and variations. This is a fantastic feature. So there are 3 different options for using the chord sequencer. If I press select in the chord sequencer section, that's going to allow me to choose between preset A, B, and C. Preset A is going to have presets that are kind of like mini songs that are named after and as such intended to be used with the styles that are on the piano. So for example, I'm going to exit out to the main menu, and I'm going to choose the piano ballad style. So I'm on the pop menu at the moment, so I'm going to go to ballad. Then I'll hit enter to open that up, and I'm going to go down to piano ballad, and I'm going to choose that one. So now I've got piano ballad style chosen. Then I'm going to go to the chord sequencer and press select. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down and find chord sequencer with the matching name, which is right there. So now when I press enter, I have a chord chart on my screen. So when the chord sequencer is on, when I press the play button to start the accompaniment, instead of the accompaniment waiting for me to trigger chords with my left hand or full keyboard chord detection, whatever it is I've chosen, instead, it's just going to use that style and play through this chord chart. And within these chord charts, there's going to be fills up, fills down. You can have changes in the variation. You can see FILU there. I don't know if you can read that or not, but that's a fill up. There you can have variation changes. You can also still just change the variations manually yourself if you want to. And also note that the interactive mode can also be used within Chord Sequencer to modify the accompaniment to match your playing intensity. So let's give this a try. I'm actually going to press intro here, and that'll give me a little intro. I went to that F too early, not paying attention. Okay, so I made a couple of mistakes in there, but whatever. You can see how that works, and that is just beyond cool. Now keep in mind, you don't have to use the matching styles with these chord chart presets. They're just made to match, but feel free to switch them up. So now I'm going to press select, and I'm going to look at what preset B has to offer. Now what preset B is, so these are just basic progressions that are going to play over and over again, and you can play over top of them. These are great for practicing soloing, and there's tons of common chord progressions in here to choose from. I'll just choose the first one. C, F, G, and C. I can just kind of keep that going as long as I want. So that's pretty handy. Very good soloing practice tool. Now if I go to preset C, this is going to be the user section. Okay, so now let's go back to that piano ballad chord pattern that I had. Once this is up on the screen, let's press enter to edit the edit menu. Okay, so remember at the start of the review that I mentioned that you had to do a firmware update? Well, this is one of the reasons. Look down at the bottom of the screen here. It says enter to enter the edit menu. That wasn't there when I was going through the manual, and it was something I really wanted to do. So I started looking into it online, and it was mentioned that it was within a firmware update, and that's how I got started on doing the firmware update. Once you do that, though, there it is. So I'm going to go and edit some chords here. I'm going to change this slash chord, which is D over F sharp. I'm just going to change that to an F chord. So I'm going to hit enter to edit enter the edit menu, and then I'm going to change the chord. I'm going to hit enter here. I'm going to change that chord from a D over F sharp. I'm going to change the root note to just F. And then I'm going to go down to the bass note. And I'm going to just remove that entirely. You get to the spot where you just have a couple of slashes right before C. So that means there is no bass note. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to also let's change this other slash chord, E over G sharp. I'm just going to change that to a G chord. So once again, remove the bass note so that it's no longer a slash chord. And then go up here and change the root note to G. And then hit exit. Then I'm going to change the following C to an F. And then I'm going to change the following F to a C. You can also choose the root notes like this. It's probably easier actually by hitting the enter key. So that's changed to a C. Now I'm going to press exit and just go back out of here. So I'm just going to hit enter once more. I'm going to scroll up to right. And then this is going to allow me to save this to one of the available user slots. Now note that this is not going to overwrite the one I started with. It's going to prompt me to choose a user pattern to save it in. There's 256 of these slots. You can see I've already saved a couple. I'm going to save it to slot number 3. And I'm just going to let it be called Piano Ballad in slot 3. And then hit enter. Confirm that I want to overwrite, and there it is. So let's press play and check it out. Turn the intro on. and so on. Super fun. I could sit there all day and do that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool, but how do you create a chord pattern from scratch? Well, you could start from an existing pattern if you like I just did, and if there's one that's close enough to want to edit, and then use the editor to add measures, change chords, etc. Or you can just go into that preset list if I hit select, and I'm in the user section. So if I just go down to an initial pattern one, and I can start from scratch. So I'm going to make a super basic one here for a really simple 1960s organ song that I really like that only has a couple of chords. So I'm going to hit enter. Okay, start with kind of a blank slate there. So I've just got a C chord. I'm actually going to go in there and I'm going to hit enter to modify the chord. Root note, I'm going to switch to G. And hit escape, or exit, sorry. Then I'm going to go to the next measure, hit enter, and I'm going to add a chord in here, and I'm going to make it a C. But I want a C7, so I'm going to go to chord type and hit enter. And go down and choose 7. Then I'm going to add, in the next measure, another G. Like I said, this is a really simple song. And I'm going to go to the next measure, and I'm going to add another C7 again. Now I want another round of this, so I'm going to choose measure. And then I'm going to choose copy. And now it's basically wanting me to specify a start position and an end position. So I'm in the start position. So as I take that down to 1, that's now selected all 4 of these. So I'm going to press enter to execute. Now it's copied. Now I'm going to go and choose measure, and I'm going to go paste. And you can see there's a thick bar there. That's the paste position. So I'm actually going to modify that to last so that it goes to the end. And then I'm going to go down and execute. So now you can see I've got those duplicated, so they're just going to play back and forth. Now I also want to add on the last C7, I'm going to add a variation of a fill up. So I'm going to hit here, press enter, and I'm going to go to variation. Variation type. And I go fill up. You can see I could also force the variation changes between 1 and 2 as well. But I'm going to put a fill up in here. So you can see FILU. Then I'm going to add another new measure. So I'll go back to measure again. And I'm going to choose insert. And it's going to ask me where I want to put it. So once again, you look for that bar. So I don't want to put it at the start of bar of the 8th one. I want to put it last, so it goes at the end. Go down to execute. So now I've got an empty bank of 4 more to add some stuff to. So I'm going to go over here. This one I'm going to add an E minor chord. Put in a chord there. Root note. E. Chord type. Minor. And I'm also going to have it switch to variation 2 and automatically go to activity level 3. So that should basically busy up the accompaniment a bit. Then I'm going to go to the final measure, and I'm going to choose fill down, and I'll also set it to a short ending. And you can see it added an ending short here. And in that short ending, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to put in a chord and put it back to that G chord. So now before I lose any of this masterpiece, I'm going to go up to right and hit right. And I'm going to put it in slot number 4. And I'm just going to leave this as initial pattern. You could use this to name it if you want, but I'm not going to bother. And overwrite, yes. So now we're in slot 4. Initial pattern. So for a style, I'm going to go back up to the main menu here. And I'm going to choose from the rock menu. I'm going to choose Power Synth Rock. Hit exit. So now I've got that chosen. Now to test this, I'm going to press the chord select button again, choose my pattern, get back in here. I'm also going to use the intro button. Before I start this though, I want an organ voice here. So I'm going to go out and I'm just going to choose just whatever the first organ is. So now we're back at our pattern. Got the intro light flashing. I'm going to start on variation 1. Okay, so let's try this out, see how this goes, and keep your eye on the variation as well, so you can see it switch when it goes to that E minor chord. Get an intro going. I didn't time the ending very well there, but that is super, super cool. But it doesn't really end there. You can actually create chord charts in Excel and save them as CSV files to import into the piano. Now, I have to admit, I was really excited about that ability. I was assuming it would be a way easier way to edit these in Excel than on the keyboard. But as it turns out, editing these on the keyboard is actually not that bad. If I owned one of these pianos, I'd probably get pretty fast making these after some practice. And the other side of this is, from what I can tell so far, editing these files in Excel is actually not very intuitive after all. Now, I do have to say, I could not find any documentation or help on Roland's site or anywhere else online at the time of making this video on what the proper file format is for these files. So to try and get an idea, I exported one of the existing chord charts from the piano to a CSV format so I could see what it looked like. Okay, so just to see how to do that, let's press Menu and let's go to Utility and then Import Export. And then I'm going to go Export Chord Pattern. There's an import one there. You can see I was on. So Export Chord Pattern. And then these are all the different ones that I've made here. So one we just made is number 4. Then it says at the bottom, 1 mark, 2, or remove a mark, 2 add a mark, 3 clear all, 4 mark all, etc. Remember earlier on in the video when I was talking about those number labels underneath these keys? That is what these are for. There's some menus where they have these keys in here where you need to choose one of them to make something happen. Had to look that up in the manual, but I did figure it out. So for example here, I could go mark all with 4 and it'll check them all off, or I could just go mark the one that I want with 2, etc. And then I could go enter and then export chord pattern. Are you sure? Enter, and then it's going to export that to a CSV file on my flash drive. So here's what this looks like in Excel. Now, looking at the file format, the piano editor, in my opinion, is a far better visual representation of the song than what you see in Excel, where it appears that instead of seeing chords in a nice sequence, they tend to get broken up into new sections whenever there happens to be a variation, regardless of where it is in the song. What would really make this feature even more amazing is if Roland was to create a standalone app for PCs or tablets with a nice visual editor that could then generate these files to export back to the piano. So, hope you heard that, Roland. Okay, so the song section. This is where you can record and play back songs or backing tracks if you have some saved on your flash drive that you want to play along with. Now, there's no built-in MIDI recorder on the FP-E50, which is kind of unusual. You can only record audio tracks. While this is a bit unusual, it is right up my alley. I always tend to prefer working with just audio tracks as opposed to MIDI files. So if you long press the song button, you're going to get a piano demo. I'm just going to quickly demonstrate the fact that I've got this volume slider over on the left-hand side of the panel. Super, super handy because you can control the relative volume of the song that you're playing with everything else that you're hearing. Just going to press stop. I think this is included just for stores to play when customers want to hear the piano, but other than that, in my opinion, it's kind of useless. So I'm just going to press exit here. Now, if you just press the song button, then you're going to have 3 sections. The first one is a preset section. And there's 3 songs listed here. And once again, to me, this is actually kind of useless, but you can listen to these 3 songs if you want. I guess you could play along with them. I'm just going to press stop on that. So now if you go to the next section, this is going to be the internal memory, which is where you record something to first. And then I've got a USB flash drive connected. So if I go to the third section, it's going to be the USB memory. And then this is all of the songs that are on my flash drive. So when you record a song, you record it to the internal memory first. So I'm just going to go back to that section. And when you record a song, it records everything you hear, the piano, the accompaniment, any audio you're streaming into the piano via Bluetooth or the 1/8 inch auxiliary in, and it also records the mic. So let's just press record and record something quick. You can start the recording by pressing the flashing play button, starting the rhythm, or starting to play the piano itself. Then just press stop to stop the recording. Now note that since I'm using my iPhone to record the video you're watching, you actually won't hear me talking or playing during the recording because the FP-E50 will consider my iPhone to be a potential audio in source, so it will stop sending audio to my phone. Now it's just given it a name of Audio 001. So let's just press play and take a listen. And you can see it's getting my voice. Now if I want to move this off of the piano and onto the flash drive, I just hit Menu, Song Utility, and press Enter. Then in here, I can rename songs, so I could actually give it a proper name, or I could copy it, or I could delete it, or delete all. So I'm going to go Copy, and I'm going to go Enter. And then Internal Memory, that's the only one that's there, so I'm just going to press Enter. And this is just copying that automatically over to my flash drive. So now, if I exit out of the Song Utility, go to the song menu and navigate over to the USB memory, you can see I've now got Audio 001. So I can play that off of the flash drive. I absolutely love the simplicity of this. It's awesome. Okay, so the mic effects section. So for mic effects, as I mentioned earlier, you can toggle them on and off just by pressing the mic effects button. So effects go on, and then effects go off. And then to edit the effects, you long press the mic effects button to bring up the menu. So when I first saw that, I thought that's a great way to have implemented this because you can quickly and easily turn the effects off to talk to people in between songs and then turn them back on for the next song. But when I did that, I noticed that even with the effects off, I was still hearing some reverb. And that's because when you turn off the mic effects with the mic effects button, it will turn off all of the effects that are being applied to the mic except for the reverb, or as Roland calls it, ambience. And that's because ambience for everything, whether it's your mic or the piano itself, is controlled by the ambience button over on the left side of the menu. So I'm going to turn some ambience on here. So now you can hear ambience on my voice. Then I'm going to turn the mic effects on. Now you can hear the effects and the ambience, but if I turn the mic effects off, you've still got ambience or reverb until I turn that off as well. So it's not the end of the world. It just means that to disable all the effects on your mic so you can talk to people, you're going to have to press two buttons. So you press the mic effects button, and then you press the ambience button over on the left, and then you have to remember to turn them both back on when you're ready to sing your next song. But anyway, on to what the effects actually are, and there's some very cool stuff in here. So if I long press the mic effects button to get into the menu, there's three types of mic effects. There's harmony, there's voice transformer, and vocal designer, which is a vocoder. So I'm going to go back to harmony here. Now the first option you have in here is how much ambience or reverb to put on your mic. Now keep in mind, this is just going to be modifying the amount of ambience for your mic. You still do turn this on or off with that ambience button over on the left, not with the mic effects button. So I'm going to turn the ambience on just so that you can hear the differences here. Crank that up to 10. That's a lot of reverb on my voice. And then turn this down to 2. So there's just a tiny bit of reverb, or right down to 0 if I want. So turn the ambience back off. Now for type, there's a whole bunch of different types in here of harmonies that you can choose from. There's options for duets and trios and quintets. There's a classic in here. There's all sorts of stuff to choose from. And you can also specify if you want the harmony to be relatively close to where your voice is or farther away, that type of thing. So I'm going to put this on Duet High Open. If I was a good singer, I'd demo this a bunch, but I don't want to subject you to that. Now, harmony level is the relative volume of the harmony relative to your voice, and then the direct level is the relative volume of your voice compared to the harmony. So I'm just going to turn the harmony on here for a second, and I'll turn down. Once I do that, I'll turn down the direct level to turn my voice down a little bit. You can hear a little bit about what the harmony is doing. Okay, so now it's turned on, and I'm going to decrease the direct level. So I'm decreasing the volume of my voice, and now you're hearing just harmony. So I'll turn that back off again. Then you can go down to chorus send. You can configure how much chorus you want to have on your vocals. Then there's also a compressor down here and a noise suppressor that you can use as well. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not a great singer, and maybe this is why, but I actually find it a little bit easy, especially if I choose some of the trios or the quintets in here where there's a lot going on. I can actually find it pretty easy to lose my place and go totally off key if the harmonies are too loud or too busy. So if I was to actually use this to perform with, I would probably stick to one of the duets or at most the trios, and I would also probably turn down the harmony level a little bit. Because what I find is that I just start singing to what I'm hearing the harmonies do, and then that kind of messes me up. But wow, what a great feature this is to have at your disposal if you're performing. Okay, so let's move on from harmony to the voice transformer. What this is going to allow you to do is bump your voice up or down an octave. And also this format option here is to, if it's positive, it's going to try to make your voice sound more feminine. And if it's negative, it's going to try and make it sound more masculine. So I'm going to put this to 0. I'm going to leave the octave where it is. And I'm going to turn the effects on. So that's what it sounds like at 0. Now if I start to
move the semitones up, it's supposed to be making me sound more feminine.
But it's just kind of making me sound kind of robotic. And then now I sound like I'm underwater, but could be a cool effect if you want to use it. Let's just go up to the octave, and I'm going to try and sing a note in the same pitch, and then I'm going to move this octave up and down. La. So that could be pretty handy. And then within this section, you can also specify the amount of ambience that you want to send, and you can also specify if you want harmony on as well, and what kind of harmony you're going to want, as well as the transformer. And there's also the compressor and the noise suppressor in here as well. Then the final option is a vocal designer, which is basically a vocoder. Now this allows you to sing or talk and specify what notes you want to set your vocal pitch to by playing the piano. So if you'll notice, if I turn this on, but I don't talk, when I hit a key, you're not going to hear anything. And when I start talking, which I'm about to, you're not going to hear my voice until I play a key. And that's because whatever I say, when I hold the key down, it's going to take whatever I'm saying and then make it sound like that note. So let's check this out. So if I can't sing very well, it would help me hit the notes. Might need to practice with that a little bit more. That could be useful. And once again, you've got options in here for the tone, the direct level, the chorus send, compressor, noise suppressor, that kind of stuff. So tons of options in here to play around with your vocals. Okay, so now on to the scenes, which are basically Roland's word for registrations to save your current setup. There are 256 scenes you can save, which is awesome, and it's super easy to do. So the first group of scenes are actually presets. You're going to notice that they've got the same names as the accompaniment styles. So all that happens when I choose one of these scenes that are the preset ones is it's going to choose that accompaniment style, and it's going to choose the matching chord chart, We were doing that in 2 steps when I was demonstrating the chord sequencer because we were doing it manually. We just came in and chose an accompaniment style and then chose the matching chord chart. When I do this through these scenes, it just does all of that for me in 1 step. So if I was to press play right now, then it would start playing through the chord chart for disco pop. Keep in mind, though, that if you want to actually see the chord chart, if you don't have it memorized, you do still have to press select and then hit enter for the chord chart to come up, and then you can play along with it. So now if I go to the right to exit the preset bank, I'm going to go to the user bank. Now these are the user scenes that I can customize and save for quick recall. So I'm just going to hit exit out of here, and I'm going to make a whole bunch of changes. So I'm going to choose an organ voice. I'm going to choose the mad organ. Then for a style, I'm going to choose that power synth rock that we chose before. Then I'm going to load that custom chord chart that we made. So I'm going to hit select and go out of the preset chord charts. And I think we saved it in initial pattern there, number 4. So I'm going to hit that. Yeah, that's the right one. Then I'm going to load a song as well. I'm going to press the song button. And I'm going to go over to the USB drive. And I choose audio 003, which is that audio song we recorded in when we were in that part of the demo. Hit enter and select that one, and then hit exit to come back out. Then I'm also going to make a change to the mic effects. I'm just going to crank the reverb so that you can you'll hear it and it'll be nice and obvious. So I'm going to hit exit out of there. Now to save it, you long press scene. Now you have to be careful here because if you just press scene and then release it quickly without long pressing it, then it can be really easy to lose all your the changes that you've made. So I'm going to hold this down, long press it, and it's going to offer me the first unused right destination, which is for the 4th bank initial scene. So I'm going to hit enter to accept that. I could rename that if I wanted. I'm not going to bother. It's going to just be initial scene, but just remember it's in bank number 4. So now that's been saved. Now just to demonstrate coming back to that scene, I'm going to go to one of the presets again. So I'm back on disco pop. So I've got the concert piano, I've got the disco pop style. If I hit a chord sequencer chart, I've got the disco pop chord chart. And if I go to the mic effects, the ambience or reverb is back down to 6 again. Now, if I do go to the song is going to be remembered, but that's because there are no songs associated with any of those preset scenes on the Roland, so that's fine. So I'm going to hit exit here. Now I'm going to load my scene up. So I'm going to go over to the user scenes. I'm on number 4. I'm going to hit enter. Now you can see I've got my mad organ. I've got my power synth rock style. I can hit select on the chord sequencer. I've got my chord pattern chosen. And I can go over here and check the mic effects. That is set to 10. So if I turn ambience on, it's going to be a ton of reverb. Turn that back off again. So now I could hit select and then see my chord chart and then press play and off I go. And if I press play on the song, we're going to get that song that I had recorded. So this is super useful and pretty easy to use. You just have to get into the habit of long pressing scene to save all your changes. It really is super easy to lose those if you accidentally press scene and then choose a different one. Okay, a couple of other things to mention. Speakers, the FP-E50 has 2 11-watt downward-facing speakers for a total of 22 watts. While these speakers do sound really good and seem to be of pretty good quality, and there is also a setting for playing on a table versus a stand, which is going to change the EQ. I've still never been a fan of downward-facing speakers on any piano. That's actually one of the only things I don't like about my Yamaha CK88 is it has downward-facing speakers. I know the idea is that the sound bounces off the floor and the walls, etc., but I would much rather have speakers just aimed straight at me when I'm playing. In my opinion, when manufacturers use downward-facing speakers, they should at least have some smaller speakers facing the player as well. But all that being said, the speakers do sound good. Here is a quick video of the speakers in action, just as picked up by my iPhone's built-in mic. Okay, portability. While the FP-E50 is lighter than my colossal Yamaha DGX670, which weighs in at 50 pounds, it is still on the heavy side for a portable piano at 37 pounds, and it is a little on the bulky side. My Yamaha CK88 stage piano at 25 pounds is pretty easy to haul around on a weekly basis to band practices, but that extra 12 pounds does seem to make a difference. I know a lot of keyboard players that haul around gear that's way heavier, but for me, the weight might actually be a deal breaker if I was considering this piano as a gigging instrument. Okay, so the verdict. What's the verdict on the Roland FP-E50? I love this instrument. I think it's a fantastic product, and it is by far my favorite Roland I've ever reviewed. It has great sounds, both piano and non, with the two sound engines. It's got an awesome user interface with a decent screen and tons of controls and sliders right on the panel to minimize any need for menu diving. It has every type of connectivity you could possibly want, including a really well done mic input with impressive gain and some cool effects. It has excellent arranger features with pianist-friendly chord fingering modes and the added benefit of the interactive mode. And the Chord Sequencer is an absolutely amazing feature, especially for people like me that like playing along with backing tracks. It has a super easy to use audio recording feature, and to top it all off, it even has an audio interface built into the USB to host port. All of that for only $100 to $150 more than the FP30X makes it an absolutely fantastic value. So, are there any negatives? Three minor ones, in my opinion, but they're not a big deal. The first is the weight. While I know, as I mentioned, many keyboard players are used to carry around 50-pound keyboards, I find the FP-E50 at 37 pounds to be a bit on the cumbersome side, especially if it's on a regular basis. The second thing is only a negative to me and anybody else who might like playing a lot of organ music. It would be super nice to have seen some drawbars and other organ controls available. The organ sounds on the FP-E50 are great and totally usable, but it is a little bit limiting when you don't have access to drawbars to modify your organ sounds on the fly. The only other negative, and this might just be my personal opinion, are those downward-facing speakers. The speakers are a decent power level and they sound good, but as I mentioned, I've just never been a fan of downward-facing speakers. But are these three negatives significant? Not really. The Roland FP-E50 is pretty awesome, all things considered. So how does the FP-E50 compare to its competition? Well, to be honest, at first I thought this piano was a direct competitor to my Yamaha DGX670, but after having this much time with the FP-E50, it really does kind of sit out there on its own. If anything, it's more of a competitor to something like the Casio PXS3100. And why do I say that? Well, I think the FP-E50 is perfectly suited as a stage piano for a solo artist or a duet or any other setting that wants to make heavy use of arranger features and backing tracks. And with the arranger features on the Roland FP-E50 and the Chord Sequencer, that's a really good fit. And while the Casio PXS3100 does have great sounds and it's got arranger features, the Roland is a far better choice with the mic input and the far better user interface. So in my opinion, that's totally worth the extra $200 that you'd have to pay to get the Roland instead of the Casio, if that's the feature set that you're after. And as far as the Yamaha DGX670 goes, it to me is more of a home recording studio solution, given its monstrous size and weight at 50 pounds. And the Yamaha has a really robust 16-track MIDI recorder on board that the FP-E50 doesn't have. So, would I buy a Roland FP-E50 for myself? To be honest, I probably wouldn't, but that's nothing at all against the FP-E50. I just happen to personally prefer lighter actions than Roland's PHA-4, and I play a lot of organ songs, and I really need those organ drawbars and controls. But those are just my personal preferences and needs, and that doesn't mean the FP-E50 isn't an amazing piano, because it is. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you like the content, please feel free to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. That does really help me out. I've left links in the description below to check out current prices on the FP-E50 and other items I've mentioned in this video in your area, as well as some links to some online piano training that I recommend. So thanks again for stopping by. Happy piano playing and have an awesome day.